By saying thank you to Pastor Hand and all the church members here from Zion's Church to let us use the church for reasons of not the idea of what we know about God. We know so much about God, but the idea of coming together as a community. My name is Bobby Leon, President of the Mexican American Council. Today we celebrate Martin Luther King's holiday and the beginning of LLEAD. A quote from Martin Luther King: "Faith is taking the first step, even when we cannot see the whole staircase." The idea of our first step is here with LLEAD. The idea of not making promises, of building hope for tomorrow. And again, with the idea of coming together and understanding what kind of direction we should all go with is the idea of respecting each other. 2015 is going to be one of the greatest, strongest years that we need to work with, especially in the year 2016. I'd like to thank everybody one more time for being here. For those that belong to the team with LLEAD here at Saginaw, you know who you are. And I would mention your name, but again, I'd like to start the program. I'm not going to waste some time here. Let me introduce Dolly Smith, who will introduce our guest speaker from California. Dolly.
Thank you, Bobby. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Dahlia, and it's my pleasure to introduce to you our guest speaker. You're in for a true treat today because our speaker is phenomenal. Some of you in the audience may have heard her speak in the past, and you know what I'm talking about. And as you can see, if you've seen the program, on the back of the program, through her biographical sketch, you can see that she's a multi-gifted individual. She has traveled to Saginaw from her home in Rancho Cucamonga, California, where she is an academician, clinician, researcher, author, and playwright. She is well known for her works nationally and is presented all over the world. Today, we are here together on this special day that celebrates the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And in this spirit, we will talk about coming together as a community to address issues that impact our lives every day. As you listen, it is our hope that at the end, you too will say, "Si se puede?" Yes, we can. And now, it is my honor and joy to welcome Dr. Gloria Morrow.
Good morning. Morning. Oh boy, I know it's cold outside. It took us a little while to get ourselves up and running. Anybody feeling the muggy blues? Thank you for being honest. Well, good morning again. Let me just start off by saying good morning. I am so happy to be here. I need to do a little switch so we can get my stuff up on the screen, and I am really excited about the occasion that we're here. This is a wonderful organization. I have been so impressed by some of the things that are going on in terms of our Latino community, and I thought this was a really neat idea to have us use the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to have a rich dialogue. Now, one of the things about me that you will discover once I see that we're just sitting here looking so nice and we're listening and just sitting here comfortable, I may shake that up. You know, we may have to get involved in the conversation because a lot of times we bring people in and we want to give a lot of good information, and you get it, you nod your head, oh, this is great, and then you forget everything I said as soon as you walk out the door. But if you get involved in this discussion, I think it will be very helpful. Some of you are saying, why in the world are we having an African-American woman talk to the Latino community? I want to say this, because all of our babies are hurting. I think all of our communities are in trouble. And anybody recognize that? That our communities are in trouble. And one of the things that has happened is that there has been this pitting community And we need to come together so we can do what we need to do to fix our communities. And if we don't agree on anything else today, I think that's a very important strategy for us to understand that as long, and this is what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, as long as one of us is oppressed, we are all oppressed. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about pursuing the prize. I'm going to ask you some questions too as we go along, because you know what I may consider the prize, you may not see that as the prize. You may have a different prize. But I want to talk about what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. saw as the prize, and then I want us to think about the Latino community and what is the prize? What are we fighting so hard to accomplish in our community? And I think that's something that we need to start wrapping our minds around. What is our ultimate prize? I want to begin by thanking, of course, Ms. Dahlia Smith. Give her a big hand. She worked so hard. I just appreciate her so much in working with this group to make sure that we have what we need to have this very courageous conversation that we're going to have today. So we're going to move into thinking about pursuing the prize. And I want to also point out that this organization is so rich that you're going to learn about today. How many of you know about LLEAD? How many of you know about this organization already? You have a little information. Well, today I'm sure we're going to learn a whole lot more about this organization to help us to begin to understand how we can be more supportive and helpful as we look at the agenda within the Latino community. I need some help because my slide is not moving here, so they can help me while I talk. I've learned how to multitask as we go along so that we don't just take up a lot of, lose a lot of time. But I have a particular charge here today. I was asked to come and to help us. That's great, that'll work. I was asked to come today because I'm going to be here in Saginaw facilitating some training and actually supervising the trainers who are doing cultural competency training here in Saginaw County. And we've been here for a couple of years doing some great things in terms of helping all of our agencies to learn how to provide appropriate mental health services and all kinds of services to communities of color. And it's been a big task, and so it has helped us to begin to look at some of the things that we can do to make sure that all of our communities receive best practices and best services. So in the spirit of that, I want to start off by thanking Pastor Susan Hand of this beautiful church. Let's give her a big hand. And again, Latino leaders for the Enhancement of Advocacy and Development and the Saginaw chapter members are all listed here. And all organizations, stakeholders, and community members who are here who took the time to be here for this occasion. My charge is to foster a conversation about the prize the Latino community may be in pursuit of. And notice I say may be, because one of the things that happens in communities of color, somebody from the outside is always trying to speak for the community. We always walk in thinking we know about our communities and we know what to do and we know how to do it, and the things that you've been doing, it's not good enough. So I'm going to just throw that right out this door into the snow. I know that you know what you're doing. I know there are some things that you all are doing that is helpful in the community. And what we want to do is to more fully identify what the prize may be so we all know what it is we're fighting for. Don't you think there's a need for that? We all need to have an agenda about what it is we're fighting for, so irregardless to our differences, irregardless to how we may see the world, we still are able to walk down the path of reaching the same prize. And we found that with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Everybody didn't see it his way. Everybody didn't like the fact that he said, we're not going to have violence, we're going to be peaceful. There were some people who said, no, that's not the way to do it. We see the prize, but we think there's a different way to get to the prize. And so we will find in our communities that people have different ways ways of getting to the prize, and some people have a different prize. Do you know people that may have a different prize? Yeah, in my community, I'll speak for myself. In my community, sometimes we have a different idea of what the prize is. So what we want to do is to try to identify with this wonderful group what the prize may be. Also, we want to discover who benefits, the sacrifices involved, the barriers, and the strategies for reaching the prize. Because we go to a lot of talks, we have a lot of meetings. I think the last thing we need is another meeting. We go to a lot of meetings. So what I want us to leave here today with are some strategies we can begin to implement or to think about implementing that will help us to reach the prize in a greater way. Because as I said earlier, our communities are in trouble. We're receiving those scraps, the leftovers. We're not getting the kinds of resources that we need to sustain our communities. And so we've got to figure out a way to come together to do that. And also, I want to have this discussion by comparing and contrasting the prize Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement was and still is in pursuit of. It's not over for any of our communities. We've had a lot of activity going in the 50s and 60s, but something has happened. You know, we've lost a major leader. You know, you've lost Cesar Chavez. We've lost people that were our leaders. We looked to these people to lead us to the prize. And so now, how do we move forward without the same type of leadership we had then? And how do we bring people up to help them to do what it is that needs to be done? There's a lot of data, and I'm going to just show this to you because that's all we have in terms of numbers. Well, what's wrong with data in the Latino community? What's wrong with the data? It's inaccurate. It does not have all of what it needs to have in order to reflect our populations accurately. Why is that? Why is the data inaccurate?
It's the way you count it.
It's the way you're counted.
I'm trying to be the other.
Yes, yes. It's to politicize. What's going on with the data? What else? Not everyone participates. So when we see the data, you know, we see a picture, and so that's how our funding is developed. That's how grants are made available based on the data. But what happens when data is inaccurate? You don't get your fair piece. Yes?
Yeah, Ms. Morrow, also the last statistic for the actual population was in 2010.
Yes.
I mean, that's almost, that's 4 years ago.
Right. And now what we're doing is projecting. All we're doing now is projecting. So we have projections that by 2060, this is what our communities will look like. But what about right now? And so that's why this conversation is so important. So these are beautiful, wonderful charts, but they don't mean very much if they're not accurate.
Exactly.
And if people are not participating, or if you're being counted as an other, and you're not totally reflected in the community in the way that your community should be. So I'm not going to go into that because I just believe that it's not really accurate. Then we have the Saginaw County demographic information, which may be a little bit better because people have tried to do a better job of making sure they're going out into the community to get information. But what this just says is that the Hispanic Latino community is 14.3%. Is that accurate?
No.
No?
It's 8%.
So again, we have a lot of data that says that there are needs in our community that may not be getting met because we're not even, as a Latino community, and I say we because you're my community too, that we're not being counted accurately. So therefore, when there are granting opportunities and money to help the community, what happens? You don't get it, or you don't get as much of it as you need. Okay? So that's a problem. Put that in your head. That's a real serious problem. So there's some things that perhaps this organization can do to help to make sure that there is accurate accounting and reporting of your community, and that people who look like you will be the ones actually going out there to count it. Because you know what we've learned? That if you go into a community and you don't look like community, what happens? What can happen if you don't speak the language?
You're invisible.
Yeah, you don't count, or I don't trust you even coming into my community. So there's still a level of distrust which prevents us from getting the accurate data that we need to get. And I'm saying this because I want you to think about this later when we talk about strategies. Do you think everyone's needed in the community to participate? Yeah. Does it matter that they may come from a different worldview or have a different perspective? It shouldn't. Because all of those voices are necessary in order to make things better in our communities. And we see the same thing in the African American community. We have people in the community who won't come together to a meeting because I don't like the philosophy of the person who's leading the meeting. I know that doesn't happen in the South, but that happens in California. And so we lose the richness of all those different voices. And the real problem, if we just recognize that we all are trying to get to the same prize, I'll be okay with the choir. And everybody doesn't sing soprano. You know, there's some altos and there's some tenors and basses. And so all those people are necessary in order to produce this wonderful piece of music. But because you don't sing alto, I don't want you sitting on my row. And so that's something that we have to change within our communities so we can get about the business of pursuing the prize. And we're going to talk about the prize. I can't wait to get there because you're going to tell us all about the prize. Look at the Saginaw Public School District data where it says there are 694. This may be pretty accurate, but it doesn't talk about the kids that are dropping out at the rates they're dropping out. And the graduation rates and the retention rates, you know, that we need to be thinking about, which makes the prize even more important. Because our kids have to be educated.
Yes.
I'll say it again, our kids have to become educated.
Yes.
To compete in this world in which we live. To have access to resources and to make things better for the next generation. So we've got to find a way, you know, to bridge that gap as well. And again, this is some good data. And, oh, it's not changing. Okay. That's okay. Okay, she's going to change something. I'm going to keep going. So let's talk about what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s prize was, the Civil Rights Movement. What was the prize? Equality. What kind of equality? Equality for everyone. So he didn't come just to, you know, make sure things were equal for black folks. He came, you know, that was the impetus because those were the folks that he represented. But ultimately, that equality excited folks like Cesar Chavez and others who said, I like the strategies he's using because it worked. You know, it was very helpful. But he wanted equality in the law. What else? Equality where else?
Schools.
Education, schools. What else?
Jobs.
Civil rights, jobs. What else? In government? Yeah. What else? Voting. Equality in voting. What else? Representation. So when we look at Dr. King's movement, it was about equality in every single area. And that was the mantra. That was the prize. That was what he knew one day he would die for, equality. Because, by the way, he did know that his days were numbered. He knew that he wouldn't live to see the end. Okay? So it was about equality. So now let's shift to the Latino community in Saginaw County. What is the prize? The same things. equality in education. What else? Jobs, government, education, access, resources, equality. I think it's so important for us to understand what that prize is, because if we all know that we're all fighting for the same thing, doesn't that help us to organize a little bit better? Even if I don't like your shirt. And even if I don't like the way you say what you say. Or even if I think that you've been a sellout. Or even if I think that I don't want to go for that grant because they're intruding in my business. Because what do we have to remember? Our numbers, our future, the prize. How do we get to the prize? So, what are some of the issues in the Latino community? Dropout rates, okay? Drugs.
Teen pregnancy.
Teen pregnancy. Unemployment. Gang violence. Crime. Domestic violence. Poverty. Okay. Absent parents. Okay. Not enough leadership. I didn't hear that one. Immigration reform. What about health benefits for migrant workers? Yeah.
Also a lot of fighting with each other.
Oh, in your community too? Wow. Uninvolved. Understanding the gay community. So we're trying to exclude groups of people, you know, because of our own preferences and our understanding and all that. Okay, what else? Identity. Oh, wow. That's one of my favorite ones, because what happens to people when we are in the United States, we are taught that it's more important for us to be like the dominant culture, and that is more preferred in our society. And so there are people who grow up in communities where that's their only choice because they go to school and they live in those communities. So we have a group of people who may be more acculturated to the dominant culture, you know, because they live in those areas. But then there are people who decide, I want my tradition to be important. And sometimes people are right there in the middle and they have to do what we call code switching, because they have to be one way out in the workforce, and then they have to be another way with their community. And W.E.B. Du Bois talks about that as double consciousness, and says it's a real difficult thing because, you know, you're sometimes not accepted in your own community, and then you're not really accepted in the dominant culture. So that can create a lot of angst and anxiety for people who are really trying to maneuver. And then this other thing I learned, I'm in California where we have a large population of Latino, a large Latino population, and a lot of parents are not allowing their children to speak Spanish. Yeah, because they don't want them to not be accepted in this society. What happens when you take away the language? What happens?
You gotta lose your culture.
Lose your culture? Somebody said identity earlier. You know, you don't have a good sense of identity. And sometimes people feel like we're not as good as someone else, and that's why we need to be like someone else in order to be okay. So what does that do for the community? It hurts the community. So again, yes, and these are all pieces of the prize that we should be trying to pursue. So there's equality, so that the language barrier goes away, so that we are able to be who we are and to celebrate that and enjoy that and have a wonderful way of passing tradition on to our children. you know? I think that's what's wrong with our kids, by the way. There's no sense of culture, even in our community. No sense of culture. Not aware of the great sacrifices that have been made. Not aware of, you know, how many contributions have been made by your community traditionally. And in our attempt to try to now bring young people in, sometimes the elders say, well, let's let the young people do it. But we need to guide them. There has to be a bridge between the elders and young people. So these are all pieces. I'm sorry?
The history
Yes.
of the young people and the experience of the elders.
Yes, they need to understand that. And there needs to be teaching and passing the mantle with guidance. Yeah, with guidance. You can't just, you say, you know what, it's your turn now. You all gonna do it. You know, you have to lead up to that. And you have to start them when they're very young. One of the things that happened to me, my parents did, like a lot of parents, they didn't want us to struggle. So, in not wanting us to struggle, they never talked about civil rights. We lived in California, so we saw it on television and we thought, wow, that's something that just happened somewhere else. That's not happening in California, which it really was. It just wasn't as overt as what was happening in the South. So I grew up not very conscious. The fact that I'm doing this work today is really kind of a joke, because now I'm this advocate and I speak everywhere about this stuff. But it didn't happen when I was young. In fact, I went to a high school where we were in the minority in the high school, and my first introduction to real racism was when a man stood up in an auditorium on our campus who said he was going to send all the blacks back to Africa. And I was so naive, I thought it was a field trip. I was trying to figure out how my parents would allow me to go. I was that naive. I had no knowledge of that because they never talked about their experiences. It wasn't until about 10 years ago that my dad talked about us going on vacation and how we never stopped at a hotel. And I thought that was fun. We slept in the car. Well, it was because we couldn't go in the hotel. So we have to begin teaching our children very early on about their culture and their heritage and the sacrifices that have been made for them to even be in school today. They need to understand what you've gone through. And sometimes we don't want them to get that bad news because we don't want to ruffle our little babies, when in fact they need to know that great struggle and sacrifices have taken place. So we had equality in the law, on the bus, in the schools, in eating and business establishments, equality in the vote. And then as the struggle continued, equality in pay and in the workplace, equality in marriage, equality in healthcare, equality in educational attainment, in the penal system and laws that we're still pursuing, equality in the LGBTQ community within all of our communities. And then here's what I saw, and this is kind of piggybacking on what all of you all said. Equality in educational attainment. There are low graduation rates right here in Saginaw. Gaining access to college. So when kids do well, can they actually afford to go to college? You know, that has to change. If the community gets better, there has to be ways for kids to be able to afford to go to college and to be supported. Immigration reform, migrant worker health reform. What about health disparities? What is the health status in the Latino community? What are the top diseases and disorders? Diabetes. All of them. All of the ones, and if the health disparities are still there, then people are not going to seek out help, or help will not be made available. Equality in the penal system and laws. You know, black and brown children and adults occupy our jails and prisons. In fact, our jails and prisons have become the new mental health facilities. Because when people are acting out because of mental illness, where do they end up? They don't end up in a hospital, they end up in prison.
They closed them all.
Yes, they close the hospitals, so now our young people are warehoused because of mental health challenges. And then there has to be another part of the prize, an ability to foster an appreciation for the culture, that we go back to bringing up some of those traditions that are so rich, that have held communities together. So who benefits from us pursuing the prize? Everybody. All of us benefit. When we have safer communities, everybody benefits. When kids are going to school, going to college, and coming back and bringing resources back into the community, everybody benefits. When we are able to write those grants and get those grants that help us to have what we need in our community, or when the community business owners come together and say, you know what, we're going to adopt a school, and we're going to make sure that school has everything it needs. Then what happens? We all in California, you know, I'm out there with the stars, and so there are some schools out there that are right there in Beverly Hills. It didn't matter that music was taken out of the schools. It didn't matter that sports and all other activities, extracurricular activities were limited. They put money into those schools so that those kids did not miss a beat. Everything they needed, they were able to get. In our communities, we are still dealing with old books. We are still having difficulties with extracurricular activities, even though we know that math and science are related, and music is related to math and science, and we need music in the schools. When our kids were singing, wasn't it better?
Yes.
When they had something that united them, it was just better. So some of the things that we're missing is because of funding. So when we are able to run and fight for those things again, then the prize will benefit all of us. So we all did then, and we all do now. So now this is where you and I get to have a conversation. What in the world is stopping us from getting to the prize? And I want you to do this. There's maybe a roll. People on the roll. I want you to talk a minute. And somebody, and I don't have paper and pencil, and I'm doing this on the spot because it just seems the right thing to do. I want you to think about the barriers that are keeping us from the prize. Doesn't matter what community you come from. What are some of the barriers that are stopping us from getting to the prize? So talk about that, just on your roll. And everybody come together. See, that's one problem now. We're just too separated. You got two sitting here, two way over there. Come together. It's cold outside too. Get close. So what are the barriers? What's keeping us from the prize? Let's just make a list of things. Talk about it. What's keeping us from the prize? time, we could probably put a whole lot of time on solving the world's problems, especially our community problems. But I'm just going to start over here, and we're just going to go around to each one of the cues. What's in the way of the problem?
Funding disparities, crime, drugs, insurance, lack of personal accountability.
I need you, could you do me this favor, because I really, you're saying some good stuff. Would you stand up and face the group and tell them what you just wrote?
Funding disparities, crime, drugs, lack of mentors, absent parents, and lack of personal accountability.
Thank you so much. Let's take this row. What did you have?
We had people's mindset, non-interest, non-involvement, lack of knowledge or education, and leadership.
Thank you.
Welcome.
How about this row? And you can just, if what you have written has been said, you can just give us those.
We have lack of speaking out. We have lack of trust and belief. We have apathy.
Thank you so much. What about over here? Yes.
We have too much pride within ourselves that we don't put it down when it's going to benefit other people, but we hold on to that Mexican pride. And we're the person, and we're like the strong one, we can do this on our own. And we need to let go and bring more people to the table.
Yes. I want you to do something. That's so powerful. Just turn to your neighbor. Just look somebody in the face. And here's what you're going to tell them. I need you. Everybody, I need you.
I need you.
Look at somebody. Look at somebody. Look at somebody. I need you. Okay, everybody looking at somebody? Let's do it again. I need you to survive. See, there is something that is, there's something that's so powerful about breaking down all of our pride to recognize that we need each other. The very air I breathe, I need you to survive in one area or another. And so that's why it's so powerful what you just said, because I think all communities can benefit from that message. That, we believe we have to be strong, we don't need help, we can do this ourselves, I'm tired of being rejected, I'm tired of going, to those meetings, I'm tired of trying to participate and nothing ever happens. But basically, I need you to survive. So we got to keep that in our minds as we think about strategies, breaking down this idea that I can do this alone. Because we can't, that's why we're in trouble. That's exactly why we're in trouble. Because we thought we could do this. That we're smart enough, good looking enough, and that we should be able to do this on our own. And what's in the way?
We had come with social and economic power, not being able to distribute that. Also, there's like classism within the culture itself. Other cultures myself. Mentoring was another one.
Yeah. Good. What about over here?
Over here, we kind of agreed that too many of the organizations are fighting against each other, not coming together as one. You can get so much more accomplished as one. And too many people complaining, not doing anything about it, and lacking leadership.
Very good. What about over here?
One of the big things we know is the babies are having babies. So the parents now have not been taught, raised right. So how are they going to raise their children? There's so much. When we were growing up, our parents cried. Nowadays, it's more like, just go play for you. No discipline, no being held accountable.
And I think there needs to be, what we've done with our programs, we've looked at reducing teen pregnancy without understanding why teens are getting pregnant. There needs to be an understanding about the why. Because if we can address the why, then maybe we can do something about the pregnancy rate. But the why is really, really important. So thank you so much. What about over here? Right here. Yeah.
Well, part of this group.
Okay, all right. I know you like to share.
Yeah, I do. Like what you mentioned, like working together, you know, it's not enough of us working together. Also, I put down not knowing too much of our culture. A lot of these young kids don't understand what we had to deal with, you know, when we were talking about like in schools, you know, it was against for us to talk Spanish. We got spanked, we got hit for talking our own language and how that was ripped from us. That takes a lot of identity from us. You know, that's a big powerful thing, not knowing our culture, and a lot of doers. We need a lot to make them doers. You know, they complain a lot, but we need to make them want to do something to make a, you know, a difference in the community.
Thank you, thank you. I told you she has some rich stuff to say. What about this group over here? What do you think? You want to talk to us?
Well, I think everybody here is right, everything they said. But we also look at society, and I think pendulum has swung. The political system does not warrant what you're doing, does not find value in what you're doing. And there's a lot of opposition about multiculturalism. But that's contingent on the leadership of mental health, public health, education, whatever sector you're dealing with. It depends on who's at the helm. But in general, I think across America, the political process is not favored this. There's a good talk about it, but there's nothing to walk. And that's what I see.
You know, I knew this man had something powerful to say.
We also, along with him, the lack of money, and also the prejudice. It's very, very strong, even, you know, like some of the smartest kids I knew were young Mexican kids, and they were dropouts. And why were they dropouts? Because nobody really wanted them in school.
Thank you. Over here, did you want to say something else?
Actually, I just kind of add to that.
Yeah, come on.
A lot of that is along the lines of pride again. That's one of the things where we're not taught. You can't just start at the bottom without a goal and not reach it. I mean, a lot of kids still believe that. I don't have to graduate. I can get a GED. You know, the government will take care of it. They don't see beyond the short term, and the long term is never taught to them. And part of it is the culture too. Because, you know, we came from an agrarian family. I mean, I had a bunch of kids, you know, for the farm and everything. My mom dropped out at 6th or 7th grade, you know, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, okay, that's what I gotta do now. I gotta raise a family. It's gotta go beyond that. Gotta look at the pride.
Thank you, thank you. What about back here?
Well, we think of two things. One is kind of associated with internal conflict. When one person does something positive, somebody else come along and do something negative to destroy and negate that. And the other thing was people having a desire to help and make a difference, but lacking the knowledge and the skill and access to resources to really prepare themselves to make that change.
Yes, very good. What about this?
We basically had the same conversation that everybody else had, and one of the things was the lack of mentoring and so many very, very young parents, whether it be apathy or whatever, their lack of trying to advocate for their children is really not there, and it could be because they're holding down 2 or 3 jobs, so they don't have a support system to help them get those skills.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what some of the other people said. I think we have some great organizations here in Saginaw, but getting them to come together and figure out certain things that they can get tasked on its own. And sometimes even some of the leaders can be very vindictive when you try to bring up something different. And I think it's holding everybody down.
Thank you. What about thank you? Do you have something else you want to share?
Yeah, come up with the lack of funding for education. There are too many schools that are closing, and too many kids in classes now and not enough teachers to teach them. And that there's too many followers, not enough leaders.
Very good. Yes. Yeah, thank you.
And another thing I've noticed is that a lot of kids are ashamed to speak their language because they don't want to be an outcast, like they're treated differently. So they don't want to learn their own language.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm going to get to you. Hold your point, though. Don't lose it. We have another team that you all want to share.
I think some of the things we talked about, like the personality conflicts, sometimes we say in Spanish, envidia. That's just basically saying, you know, why are you getting it and not me? So therefore, we shoot each other down, sort of, you know. I think the other thing, too, that's pretty relevant is the lack of fatherhood. There are too many young people without fathers. There's too many young women with children that don't have that partner to raise that family. And so the lack of fatherhood is pretty evident in our communities as well. And then finally, the incarceration of a lot of our fathers that are incarcerated simply because their life has changed because they can't find work. There's things that often in a community, they think that's going to advance them monetarily, and it doesn't. So therefore, we find them in prisons. So prisons are pretty relevant in our community as far as our men are concerned.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm originally from Austin, Texas. My father brought us here because he got a job in the plant. Typical story. But education was nothing that was pushed in our household. I have a sister that's a doctor, okay, and I'm in education. I have another sister that's a great businesswoman in Dallas. And that's only, so all the things that we are hearing here, lack of fathership, lack of whatever it is, I think of it like this. I spend 35 to 40 hours with people's children. Okay. And I think that, and because my heart is in education and teaching and training, I really feel that there needs to be more support, like everybody's talking about. But why don't we reinvent ourselves? Why can't we do that? I mean, you know, we hear all the barriers.
We don't get distracted.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you know, hearing all of that, which every one of us are bringing that while doing this, we all agree on the barriers.
Right.
So my thing is, what I wanted to come is what the gentleman said about speaking our language, Spanish. If you speak that in the public schools, you get in trouble for that. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Your voices are so rich and important. Yes.
I just recall that one time when I was teaching that we took out God out of the religious, the government. And so to me that made an impact on a lot of kids' lives.
And see, that goes back to non-involvement. Because you can't just pull things out without having a vote about it. And so that's why we have to organize. We have to come together for the prize. Because if you have the prize in mind, then we can change some things and stop losing things that are important to our very existence. There was one group back there, I didn't want to miss someone. Did you all have something that you wanted to add back to that? Yes, go ahead.
We said, advocacy, time. Coming together. We're all saying this. We're all singing in the same choir. That's right. We're all singing in the same choir, but we have to move that. We have to move from having the choir rehearsal to the real performance. Because we just had a lovely choir rehearsal, and we sounded beautiful together. But now the test is, you know, what do we do when we go out to perform? We should still have the same melody when we go out. We may have different pitches. And I don't know about you all, but sometimes when I'm sitting in church and someone's sitting next to me, I'm a singer. So someone sitting next to me may not be a singer. And woo,
But yet, their heart is in it, and they're singing, and they're joyful in it, and I have to be okay with the fact that they may not be the best singer in town, but they're still singing. So we have to do in our communities, we have to realize everybody is not going to see it the way we see it, or want to do it the way we want to do it. And we have to find a way to be able to agree to disagree, yet keep our eyes on the prize. And that's what happened with Dr. King. He had folks in his camp that said, oh no, that's not how that should be. No, I don't like that. No, that's not going to get this job done. But finally, they had to decide that the prize was more important than my opinion. A lot of us have so many opinions until we go into a meeting and we sabotage the work that needs to be done to get to the prize. Because if I go to a meeting and people are always arguing and debating about their perspective, that's why today, and I'm saying this, and I hate to say this about an organization that I love and want to be in, the Association of Black Psychologists. I don't go. I wanted to go. I couldn't wait. I'm a new psychologist. I'm going to be with my folks and be able to impact our community, and all they wanted to do was fight about philosophy and exclude groups. We don't want white folks in our meetings. We don't want brown folks in our meetings. It's all about us. And I try to help people, I try not to be so combative. But I want to say that we are all each other's people. We all have the same struggle. We all have the same fight. I might be at the meeting because I need to be, because I'm African American, but I'm providing counseling services to your babies. So I need to understand the community and be a real stakeholder. So I understand what the issues are. To understand how I can be helpful. But if you tell me I can't come because I'm African American, then you lose. And that's why we've got to cross the aisle. We've got to understand that's what Dr. King did. When you look at those clips, who did you see marching? Everybody was marching. And as long as a black, brown, or any other child, even a white child, is struggling, we all ought to be marching. That's right. Because if our communities are unsafe, it's because our kids are in bad shape. And we're so busy, it's got to be my way. It's got to be this way. Our churches have to be this way. The church, don't let me start there. Because the church has to be embracing of a new generation. And even an old generation, I can't sit in church long like I used to. Get sleepy. I used to be in church all day long. I can't do it. If they go past an hour, I'm out. And then to hear someone from the pulpit say, wake that sister up. That does not work for me. So we have to make changes based on the day in which we live, yet still keeping our eye on the prize. Never lose sight of that. Never lose why we're fighting, why we're in this struggle, why our kids need to be educated, why we need to attend these meetings, why we need to cooperate, why we need to coalesce together, why we need to be inclusive of every facet of our community. We can't isolate people just because their perspective is different from ours. So here's what I wrote. I love this group. We have systemic barriers. We have laws of practice that serve as barriers. Lack of unity, you always said that, because of the failure to honor and respect within group differences. Lack of resources. We allow some groups in and push other groups out. And failure to bridge the generational gap. We got to start, older folks, we need to be the consummate storytellers. There is such strength in this room. I don't know about you, I felt it. When you all came in this room, I felt the strength, the resilience. I could feel it. It was like, woo! I could feel these people coming into this room on a Monday morning morning, that they're really off at 10 o'clock in the morning, these people have strength and resilience. You've seen some things happen in your lifetime. You've overcome some things in your lifetime. Some of you are educated and it was a struggle. Some of you are still in a struggle, but you have strength. Your kids need to see your strengths, not your weaknesses all the time. They need to know that you're not always strong. Stop telling your kids you've never been through anything and that you're always strong. Stop telling them that. Because they need to know it's okay if they make a mistake. They need to know it's okay when things don't feel strength-based to them. But you all have that, and that's your asset. That's the thing that can change your community. You come in with strength. You have that. You know, the stuff that your parents had to go through in the fields and all of that, that's something that you can stand on their shoulders and go to the next level. But you've got to believe that. You are not victims. You are overcomers. And you have strength. And that's what we're going to look at in the strategies. It takes strength to move to a place of strategy. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. By systemic barriers, do you mean institutional barriers?
Yes. Yeah, some of the systems that are in place. You know, they serve as a barrier. Sometimes when you're trying to get that money or you're trying to do different things in your community, those systems stand in the way of that. Because if you don't organize, and see, here's the other thing. And I know you don't like this. I don't like this. But when you're in Rome, you have to do as the Romans do. If you're applying for grants, you gotta follow the procedures that have been established to get the grant, even if you don't like it. Because your eye is on what? You're thinking about the prize. You know what you're going to get at the end of the day. And we spend way too much time complaining about the process. And somebody else is going to get the money while you're complaining. So you got to keep your eye on the prize always. I got to move because I don't want to miss out on strategies. We hold the erroneous belief that the government will fix the problem. Our government is not designed to fix your problems. Haven't you gotten that by now? So we cannot look to the government. It's going to happen in this room. Failure to organize for the common goal. Failure to organize for the prize. Stigma. Fear. Distrust. Somebody said it. And failure to collaborate with other communities. I always want to be around folks that are getting what I want to get. Because I want to know how they got it. I want to pick the skin off their brain so I can find out how you got what I need. And the best way to do that is to be open to collaborate and to invite other people into the room who have been successful at doing what you're trying to do. Now, strategies. Let's take a minute. We don't have long, so they keep giving me a time clock. So I want you to talk back in your little groups. What do we do? What do we need to do? I don't want to tell you, this is your task. What do we need to do? Then I'm going to share some thoughts. But what do we need to do to get to the prize? How can we get to the prize? And by the way, those of you who wrote down those barriers, I want you to take them off so we can give them to Dahlia, and she'll have them and then she can post them. It'd be really good for you to see what you wrote. So let's do the same thing with the strategies. What do we need to do to get to the prize? And then I'm going to share with you what Dr. King did. Oh, I wish we had more time because I can just see that you all have the answer to this. So if you're going to be a reporter for your group, would you just stand so I can just quickly go around and have you speak for your group? You're going to speak for your group. Would you just stand? There we go. All right. Thanks. Let's start back here. What do we need to do? Yeah, you get to go first. Yes. Let's listen. We got it. Yeah, speak louder so that everyone can hear.
We come up with, we need to come together as one and learn our cultural history and start disciplining our kids a little better. And everything they said, oh. Yeah, I know, we're the first one. It's about it.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to speak on behalf of my group right here. We came up with a few ideas. One, first of all, we're talking about the table. You know, when invited to the table, that we need to not ask the question, why are we invited to the table, but to actually go and realize that we do have a voice at that table. Yeah. And I think that's one. Another one would be to be a good listener and listen and realize that others may have some things that we may not simply agree with, but to listen and see what they have to say, the strategies that they have for that. And then also when if we are the ones actually holding that table, we need to actually invite people that may not see it our way. And sometimes I think we only invite the ones that are kind of run with us and see things the way we want to see things. We need to think outside the box.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that's very important.
That's good stuff. Thank you all.
Yes.
Just partnering with other organizations that are doing a lot better than our organization and kind of like helping them out and in the same respect as helping ourselves out to better our organization.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Mine was, we need to talk to each other, we need to listen to each other, we need to work together, we need to set an action and implement an action, we need to set goals, we need to prioritize, we need to have a starting date, a finish date, or ongoing date, and to evaluate, and then start over.
Good stuff.
We had organize, set goals, and use LEAD as catalysts to develop programs that provide support systems for families, to resolve issues, and to find resources.
Wonderful. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, hi. Sorry, everything sounds so great. I really, like I said earlier, I really think we have to reinvent ourselves as a culture, as a people, because this is a new generation. We are, you're right, our generation now, I'm 57 years old. I know I don't look it. It's Lord. But I look at my granddaughter's 20, I have a 22, we have a 22-year-old and on down, up to 7-year-old, 5-year-old, okay? So in seeing this big generational gap, I go with flow. You know, I have tried to reinvent myself by changing my mindset, as my niece said. But I think, you know, what we really need to do is all of us that are here, we are the seed for this county. For Saginaw County, there's 196,542 Hispanos, Latinos that are in this area. Our businesses, our school should be booming. What is going on here? What it is that we being the seed of this is so powerful. And if we just don't leave today and say, oh, that was a good meeting, Miss Morrow was great, and blah, 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 and talk the talk and not do the walk and not implement and not water this seed, we're not going to grow and we're not going to go and we're not going to change nothing. Okay, can I say something? And I don't mean to offend nobody, but I've been known to tell the truth, okay? The truth of the matter is this, that, you know how I found out about this meeting, Miss Gloria? I'm going to tell you how I found out about it. Because my son wanted some carnitas and barbacoa. So they had a stack of papers there, and I'm always reading, you know? And I'm like, ooh, that sounds, praise the Lord, that sounds good, right? So I called up some of our people, our teachers and stuff. I said, we got to go. We want to do this. We got to get involved. Praise God, you know, to me this is, Again, I'm a minister and a chaplain also. So I'm praising the Lord for this, because to me, now you may be, our school, we accept anybody. Muslims, whoever, gay, not gay, whoever. This ain't about that, okay? I heard someone say this years ago, and this is what he said. You may go somewhere where you don't agree with everything, but if you agree with 75% of what that person said, take it and run with it. And put the other side on the stove, pray. Me, I pray about it. I pray for them. And you know what? And move forward with the 75%. Because I will take that, and I think that's what happens with us. My niece might not agree with me. I might not agree with her. Okay? I might not, whatever it may be. But you know what? I'm going to say something to you. What we do agree with, if we just bring that together, that little part, will be very powerful. I believe we need to have an Hispanic directory of businesses, of schools, of things like that, where we know how to make this look at social media. I don't know how to do it. I have my daughter do it, okay? But to get on there, and social media is at our fingerprints, so we should be able to do that. More focuses and targeted on, like we said, our culture, and moving forward and implementing what everybody is saying here, because it's so powerful. That's what our team believes. Thank you.
And let the church say. Amen. All right.
I don't want to follow that.
Dr. King is smiling. This is what he came for. And I'm going to take up the offering in a few minutes.
What we came up with was for us to be more accepting to other cultures. Sometimes we just get complacent in our own culture and familiar with our own people. We wanted to collaborate, develop better strategies, and bring everybody to the table.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes.
We came up with the figuring out what our goal is. You have to set the goal first to work at it, and then you have to take steps to reach goals. You just can't just grab a goal and just shoot for it without a plan. So basically, plan, do, and adjust. Mentoring along the way. That way, we can get with other groups, other cultures to figure out, okay, how did they get it? Basically, it's the return on the investment. We want, people are an investment, and that's what we want. We want a good return on our investment.
That's good.
Invest in people, and then they give back to the community.
That's wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes.
We spoke about organizing with other groups of other nationalities and races and stuff. And see what's working for them and kind of what their wins are. And also looking at trust and loyalties with the groups, within the groups that already exist, and working on that within them, with them. And looking at the justice system. Father spoke about that there's
the courts and the civil government's built on the poor, because they're the ones that get the tickets and get fined
and they can't pay them, they end up in jail. Thank you, sir. Yes.
We talked about having goals and coming together to reach those goals, even when we may not agree with everything that they have to say. It's trying to find a way to reach us together.
So as not to be redundant, one that's very important, and everyone is saying, first off, you have to come together. Second, strategies to accomplish what you identify as a problem, and to stay on task. Stay on task.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Everything that everyone said is what we all come up with, and I'm sitting here and I was listening to all this, and I'm thinking, I have been looking at some of the same faces in this room and in the community for 25 years, and this is the same conversation we've been having for 25 years in my life. Mrs. Wallace says she's been doing it my whole life, her whole life. When do we get to the point where we don't want to leave somebody behind? We have to give them the dignity that they deserve as a human being, and focus our attention on somebody who wants the help.
Yeah.
That's frustrating to have this conversation over and over and over. I said, well, we're here, now what, so what?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
So to tag him on that, and because I absolutely agree, I think these conversations are continuing to happen. However, and also to complement that,
57-year-old, and you really don't look 57, but I appreciated hearing that even at 57 that you continue to learn and continue to adjust. And that's huge. My father, who's no longer with us, in passed at 89. That was the greatest legacy that he left us, was never stop learning. And up until he died, he continued to. So, but learning and growing are two different things. And so I would say to that, the generational gap there that's a tough one. And I don't know how much we can do with that. But I'm very hopeful in the upcoming generations. But to work with the upcoming generations, I think that there are 3 areas that we absolutely, in our generation, can still do. And that is, one, to educate ourselves and not wait for others to educate us, but to seek out the information on, one, cultural diversities, not just our own. We cannot limit it to just our own cultures. Religious diversities, it's so important to understand. Just look around the world, read social media, and understand religious diversities and how it's impacting our world. It's hugely impacting our world, and it's causing wars. And then gender diversities, that's also something that's so prevalent right now in the world, that's also causing a lot of angst among people. So gender diversities, which can be a very uncomfortable thing for many people, especially of different religious backgrounds. But our children are growing up in a society where gender diversity for them has a completely different perspective than what we grew up with. And so if we're going to understand and help them to grow up in this world, we have to understand it. So with regard to educating ourselves, then to ingrain that in our children while they're growing up, preferably not once they get to be adults. So ideally, if anyone still has younger children, to ingrain those 3 different areas of culture, religious, gender in their lives, so that they just grow up with it, and it's not a scary thing, or it's not a foreign thing to them. And then now, especially with social media, that's just blasting us and hitting us at every angle, to remain compassionate in discussions, which is really difficult online, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever, but to remain compassionate in discussions. And I'm guilty of that as well, where I now have learned to read something, if I get irked about it, go back 24 hours. And it's almost always a different response. But to refrain from getting immediately defensive, especially when ignorant comments are made, which there are social media full of them. And then, if possible, go back and take the opportunity to educate people.
Wonderful. Boy, you all have it. The way you move past the conversation to action is to change your mindset. We must embrace the fact that the oppressed all have power, and sometimes we forget that. We need to foster trust and be trustworthy. We will never have those courageous conversations if we don't trust others and if we're not trustworthy ourselves. We must become inclusive of concerned individuals within and outside our group. We must make sure our agenda is the community agenda. It's not my single agenda, but it's the prize that we're all fighting for. We must organize and be willing to agree to disagree, bridge the gap between the elders and the youth, understand and embrace the role of faith in the lives of the community and the diversity that is reflected in the faith community. And I believe if we do that, we can move beyond conversation and go into action. Give yourselves a wonderful hand. And the last thing I want to say is, in the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I want to talk one last minute about what he really believed in. And that is what? What did he talk about more than anything else? Love. All right? So what we want to keep in mind, that hatred paralyzes life, love releases it. Hatred confuses life, love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life, and love illuminates it. So let's love one another, let's be well so we can treat others well, and let's get up, and this group that's going to come next, let's listen to what they have to say, and be sure to participate. We must all participate in the process. So thank you for allowing a young lady from Southern California to come and share.
As we're waiting for the microphone to change hands, everyone is invited to a luncheon afterwards. So please stay as long as you would like to continue talking and have some nourishment. You are invited to go back at any time during this presentation and get some coffee. We have some pop available, and we have different snacks back there. So if you need a break, definitely take one, okay?
That's going to be a tough act to follow. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Before we move on, I want to thank Dr. Morrow again for that wonderful presentation. I'm glad I'm bringing you back to the community more to help us. That was a fantastic presentation. Asked her hand. I don't see in the room, of course. But I want to thank her once again for hosting this. Not only does she host today's event, but she also hosts the Saginaw Boxing Club. And this Saturday, the 24th, they're going to have a boxing show at the building right across the hall this way, or across the parking lot this way. What time does that event start?
Doors open at 5.
Okay, doors open at 5. That's Efren Garcia back there. If you give him a round of applause, he runs that. Makes a big difference in a lot of young people's lives. So show him your support and come out next Saturday. He's got a ringside seat reserved for me. Okay. Before I get started, I wanted to say that I wanted to dedicate my participation today to my dad. This was the last project he worked on before he passed away. So my heart and my soul are really into this today, into this group, and seeing it through to fruition. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out today. So over the past year, many of you have had conversation with myself, Bob DeLeon, Gilbert Guevara about this idea. We've given you a snippet, some talking points about what we're trying to accomplish, and I think today we're ready to present the idea to you in a somewhat formal fashion, but a key part of this is going to be after we present, we need your feedback, because the group that we're starting here is in its infancy stages, and it's going to rely on your feedback to move forward. So LEAD, as you can see on the boards right now, on the TVs, stands for Latino Leaders for the Enhancement of Advocacy and Development. I feel like those words, advocacy and development, encompass everything that needs to happen in our community. All those issues that we talked about fall under those umbrellas of advocacy and development. Plus, we use those words, it helps us spell the word LEAD. So our mission will be to convene Michigan Latinos in order to exchange ideas and provide unified solutions on common issues to resolve challenges on a local, state, and national levels. Imagine being able to go to the governor, the state legislature, Fortune 500 companies to present ideas that can enhance the lives of the Latino community throughout the state, and do this by speaking with one voice in a well-thought-out, democratic, and unified manner. This is something that has been attempted in the past, but it's something moving forward that we really feel needs to happen. You know, the president gave his speech on immigration. How great would it have been to have some of these things in place before that happens. You know, it seems like everybody is at least on that same page in the conversations that we've had, is that we need to unify, we need to come together, not only in the Saginaw community, but across the state, to move forward as a community. Purpose. LEAD will be a catalyst whereby local communities can coordinate, design, develop, and advocate for the creation and solutions to overcome societal challenges. What are those challenges? Well, it's a lot of what has already been talked about today. Civil and human rights, health disparities, education, employment or lack thereof, economics, housing, immigrant rights, civic engagement. So the way the group started was in November 2013, leaders from the Holland, Lansing, and Saginaw communities met at Christian Ray Community Center in Lansing, Michigan. We've never been to it. It's a great facility. They offer physical and mental health care there, as well as a number of other services for the needs of the community. Some of those folks are here today, and we'll introduce them at the end of the presentation. But when they came together, they found that they have some common beliefs. The LEAD founders' common belief in unifying communities through one voice. The LEAD founders' common observations concerning Michigan Latinos were that there was unlawful discrimination and racism throughout the state. There was a lack of jobs and unfair employment practices. Education dropout rates and post-secondary degree non-completion rates. So I wanted to talk about just for a second, you know, when we talk about dropout rates in our community, the one thing that's always talked about is high school dropout rates. Well, if you look at the statistics, when it comes to college, the dropout rate's actually worse. Most people think, well, once a kid gets to college, they've made it. Another issue is accessibility to health care and lacking insurance rates, teenage pregnancy rates. You know, as Dr. Morrow talked about a little bit, over the last year, as we've gotten this going, I've done a lot of work to try to collect data, and you know, like you said, it's hard because our community is undercounted. One of the shocking things that I found was that when it comes to prisoners in Michigan, if you tried to find out how many Latinos are in prison in Michigan, you could not get an accurate number because the state doesn't require them to self-identify their race. So we don't even know how bad that problem is, but I think we all know it's a problem. So we have an organizational structure in place. The group's been meeting for a year. Not all of these things are 100% fleshed out or decided. We're still meeting to figure out some of these things, but we do have a loose organizational structure in place. We will have a statewide board of directors, and we will have branches in all of the communities in Michigan that have a significant Latino population or a population that wants to get together and get organized. The branches include, but are not limited to, a LEAD local chapter with or without a youth council, LEAD high school chapter, and LEAD college chapters. Okay, the board of directors at the statewide and at the local level will be responsible for the actions and funding of the entire organization. LEAD board of directors will consist of 11 elected representatives who are elected members of local LEAD branches. The purpose of the LEAD branches will be to advocate and be a unified voice both locally and statewide. LEAD branches will consist of, but not be limited to, a LEAD local chapter with or without a youth council, LEAD high school chapter, and LEAD college chapter. So the same structure that exists for the state, which exists at the local level. You know, I don't think anybody doesn't know that coming together is really the hard part. You know, everybody has their own agenda, their own things that they think are important. But coming to a consensus and settling on appropriate decisions is the only way that Latinos in Michigan can speak with one voice. So that the mechanisms we put in place will have to survive any turbulence that can create obstacles when coming together to discuss and decide on potential solutions to problems confronting Latinos in Michigan. You know, it's a very democratic idea. You know, you start a group in the community, that group comes together, forms a consensus. supported by the statewide organization. The LEAD local chapter membership consists of 11 adult members in any Michigan community. So any community in Michigan that has at least 11 people can form a LEAD local branch. The annual membership we decided is going to be $10 per person. So some of the benefits to this idea will be that we unify each of those communities into one voice statewide. You know, one of the things that we talked about is addressing the issue with collection of data right away. We want to be able to go to Governor Schneider and say, Governor Schneider, we need every statewide department to classify Latinos in a unified manner. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to fill out any kind of paperwork where I've been told I have to classify myself as black or white. I did it just the other day on an online account I was starting. I can't remember what it was, and that's no offense to African American or Caucasian members of the community, but when I look in the mirror, that's not what I see. I see a brown person. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So some of the benefits to being a part of LEAD would be sharing best practices. You know, the leadership group here at Saginaw, there's not really a duplicate of it anywhere in the state that I know of. The community center that they have in Lansing, the Crystal Lake Community Center, there's things similar throughout the state, but I think what they have going there is really unique, all in one kind of building. Social media networking, you know, obviously everybody's on social media, but if we could do that kind of networking on the state level, I think it could have a lot of benefit. As well as having a communication network, you know, a directory of all the, say, Latino charter schools in Michigan, all the scholarships, maybe job opportunities. As far as legislative lobbying benefits, you know, the ability to go, like I said earlier, to the state legislature, the governor, a Fortune 5 company, and say, this is our organization, chapters throughout the state, to speak as one voice for the 500,000 Latinos in the state. It's a very powerful thing. And it can be a very powerful thing. We also want to have an annual membership event. Every year we want to have a big gathering, conference of all the Latinos in Michigan to voice issues, which will be coming up at all of our board meetings, which anybody here is welcome to attend. But at an annual membership event, we'd like to do something on a big statewide level and get everybody together. And our presentation was very brief, and it was meant to be that way because the big part is today getting your input. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to recognize some of the LEAD members that are here in the audience today. I'm going to go left to right. Bobby DeLeon, go ahead and take a bow. And also, once I'm introducing today, I've been there since day one. I'm Gilbert Guevara. Gilbert is also the representative on the statewide Hispanic Latino Commission. My uncle, Rudy Reyes. He's in the and they're here from the Lansing area. If you have any questions or concerns that aren't able to be addressed here today, that's my cell phone number. I always have it with me if you want to call. But what I'd like to do now is take some questions and answers, and some of the other people who have been part of LEAD are going to come up and help me answer those questions. But our goal, our next step, is to take the input that we get today, tell us what you think about the idea, what are some of the issues that you feel are important, and on March 31st, we're going to move forward and have a workshop where we put some more structure and some more of these ideas down on paper. We also need you to fill out a survey that we gave you all here today. And if there's anything that you want to say that you can't put on the survey, go ahead and put it right on the back. With that being said, go ahead. What are people's reactions, thoughts?
Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
I have a thought about the structure. I think that the local chapters, I hope that would be really representative of all of the different organizations in the community, and maybe have that be a goal, is that there's at least one representative from all of the different areas.
I think that's a great idea. Matter of fact, that is part of our agenda. I think I heard sometime earlier that we've done these things in the past and it's been the same old thing. Well, with LEAD, it's not going to be the same old thing. We're looking at the new generation of Latino professionals as well as Latinos in this community. And we're going to be inviting not only the public sector, but also the private sector, because we know that there are Latinos that work in the private sector. And for us to know what kinds of situations or how they can help us, we need them to be a part of LEAD. We're looking at also those individuals that have just graduated for the past 6 years with the Hispanic leadership. Dan is one of them. And we brought Dan on board not only because of his father, but we knew that he had the kind of talent, young talent that we needed. So for those that are with the Hispanic leadership and have graduated, we're expecting you to also step up. I feel that you are the new generation in terms of this leadership. My thought is, being first generation, is that we have to somehow encourage younger people. But we got to give you a chance to grow. Grow professionally, grow on your job, and grow possibly even with family. You may be getting married, or you are married, and we recognize that that's part of that growth. But we also recognize that you have a profession, and we want to respect that. We want you a part of this team, because eventually, LEAD is going to be one voice. It's going to be your voice, not just mine, but it's going to be all voices. And that's why we're looking at college. That's why we're looking at high school. We're looking at these young people that probably might say to me, and when they look at me, if I walk through the halls of Arthur Hill, they'll probably say, "Who's that old man?" Okay? And they're right. But I don't see myself as an old man. I see myself as a seasoned person. Okay? Not old. All right? And so we're going to offer that to all. We're not going to limit it. Okay? But it's up to you to come forth. That survey that you're getting today, please fill it out. Give us the information, because we want to get back with you as soon as we can. And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
I do want to add, though, that that would be ideal if we could get 1 or 2 people from every organization in the area to represent themselves at the table. That would be ideal, because we need everybody's voice, every community's ideas. Within our own culture, we are diverse. To say that, just 3 of us can speak for everybody, we don't believe that at all. So we do need a representative or 2 from every organization and every job field, every walk of life that we have. Go ahead.
I also have another suggestion, since you're trying to get high school and college students. One way may be to either waive the $10 fee, because most of those kids don't have even $10. Either sponsorships or scholarships or something. And to get the youth, I think that you have a very good recommendation area here, because we're all grandparents, great-grandparents or something. And I think that if we really believe what was said here, then we should be able to encourage our own kids.
I don't think we have a problem waiving any fee for high school students. I know there's college students that possibly aren't working. I don't think that's going to be a problem. And those kinds of considerations can be made. The idea here is to bring people together to hear what people have to say, because I think when you become one voice, then you have a lot of clout and influence in the community.
I just want to speak to the $10, please. And I believe in the bylaws we wrote in that there could be a waiver if the chapter felt there needed to be a waiver. The reason we put just the minimum $10 was we were hoping that with that $10, the children or the students would have a buy-in to the program. Well, gee, I paid $10, I need to get there, or I need to go there. That was the initial reason for the $10. But we wouldn't exclude anybody because they didn't have the $10.
This next meeting, is that open to anybody, the youth, the,
be open to the community.
So we could.
Yes, we're working on that now. We'll get back with everybody again. In order for us to actually be successful to communicate with the community, we're going to depend on our media, and we're going to depend on other people to help us spread the word. So we will get back with you on that one.
You already have a location?
Not yet, that's what we're working with. Okay. Dolly, you want to say anything on that? Thank you.
We're committed to the date, we committed to having that follow-up, we're having a workshop to address further community development. You know, we're in that planning process of getting those details. Hope that we will see you guys there.
Well, the reason why I brought that up is because I work in the school also, and the youth are tech. They know their tech. They computer. I mean, they can do so much to help us. And if you could get the youth involved, they will be there and they will do it.
You know, I don't know if we properly introduced Dahlia. Dahlia Smith works for Saginaw County Community Mental Health. And I want to thank her too because, you know, I always knew that there was a problem. Yeah. For a long time that there's a problem collecting data when it comes to our community, but I want to credit Dahlia for really opening my eyes to how bad that problem is and how much work we have to do in that area.
And believe me, we've had arguments, but you know what? It's the idea of we leave it at the table. When we leave there, we leave as brothers and sisters. Okay? And again, that's what it's all about. We've got to make changes with the idea of knowing how to respect each other. But she's a tremendous, beautiful woman. She's done a lot for not only the community, but MAC. Matter of fact, these will be posted at the MAC Center. Okay? Only because of Dahlia. Why don't we have it? Latina back, I mean. But anyway, again, so many changes that are going to be occurring 2015 would be for the betterment of our young people.
We're looking for more questions, because I know you folks have
Yes.
more questions, please.
Okay, do you guys have, like a website that's up right now, or Facebook, so that we can, and would you accept, like, any kind of postings for anything that an Hispanic leader is doing in the community?
Right now, there is a Facebook group, so if there's anything you want to post on there,
Yeah.
you have to send an invite to the group. I'm sorry, not an invite, a request to join the group.
Okay.
Then we'll just add you there, and then you can post.
Okay. So you have to be a member to be.
Yep, but there is a
Okay.
Facebook group. Just look for it. Just type in LEAD, all capital letters, the way it's spelled, and it should come right up. Only the Saginaw chapter has a page right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Great. Yeah, I was going to say, with your mission and purpose, you can't go wrong because you've been in almost every sector that warrants attention. But I would just wanted to share for your consideration is that in the educational arena, STEM seems to be where it's at right now, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I believe that Delta College just got over $1 million monies for STEM programs along the line of tutoring youngsters in the school system. And I just read about it. I'm not, I retired from Delta, so I'm not on their programs right now. But I'm thinking if that's a linkage that you might want to consider, because based on my experience at Delta College, we had a partnership with Michigan Tech, which was for STEM. And we had to qualify, and we had a lot of Latinos. And ironically enough, some of these Latinos come from the inner city, of course, out of town, and etc., but they were diamonds in the rough. They were diamonds in the rough. And Michigan Tech and this partnership with Delta would give them a scholarship, a 7.5-week scholarship for $2,500, free room and board, a free class, and a class project that they had to do at Tech for 7.5 weeks. some of those youngsters are now with Caterpillar, Kimberly-Clark, Yo and Yo. But in my relationship with them, a lot of these same youngsters, young ladies as well, had never been out of Saginaw. And I noticed that they needed mentoring. Even though they excelled, they needed mentors. They needed someone to motivate, encourage, and give them hope, and to sustain them. Because like you said earlier, some of them would drop out because I remember going to Tech, and as we approached Houghton, Michigan, they would say, Mr. Ray, are there any people up here that look like us? But Michigan Tech was a wonderful school, very receptive to Delta. My point is that there are existing programs that LEAD can tap into and form an alliance with them, because we have the youth, they have the monies, they have the resources. And so conceivably, like I said, I'm not thoroughly knowledgeable about this new, over $1 million. They got lots of money for this STEM, and I believe it involves tutorial. If we are going to change the direction of our Hampton, of our people, of all people, of our community, it is going to be through the youth and their education. That's just one, but like I said, you are very inclusive and inclusive of almost every faith with the exception of religion. I know that you don't have religion here. But I also know that religion is important because as bright as some of our students are, they don't go to church. They don't go to church. And not that you're not bad if you don't go to church. My point is, oh, my grandma says the rosary, my grandma prays, or my tito prays, and so on. But at our household, you say, hey, put those, no computer. We're sitting at the dinner table, somebody might be texting each other at the same table. So no, we're going to say praise. We're going to pray. We're going to hold hands, and no texting right now. I know I'm going off a little bit, but the point is, it somehow it involves collaboration, like you mentioned in your statement there. We have existing sources that we need to collaborate with. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like our colleague here said, we need to reinvent ourselves. One of the problems that we have is we don't have access to existing services. Mental health has a host of mental health services. How many of our children utilize it? Public health, mental health, Delta, Saginaw Valley. If we somehow tap in, collaborate with them, that's half the battle. My last point is, I don't know if you want to insist primarily on minorities or Hispanics or the general public or limited to Hispanics only. My experience has taught me two lessons, is that if you deal solely with Raza, Hispanic youth, that you might find some resistance in monies. If you deal with a little bit of everything, the community might be more receptive. And that's something that perhaps through your research with your organization, that's something that you will have to think about, because I know that if you're going to deal with solely with Raza, you're going to have probably more chance with private money. If you deal with the general public that incorporates a little bit of the community which we live in, that we are a part of, there might be more receptivity in getting public monies. So I just wanted to throw that in.
As far as STEM goes, my employer received a large grant from Dow to do STEM programs. And actually, we partnered with the Saginaw schools. They had $2.5 million century program. And a lot of that is based on STEM, and we're partnering with them to help deliver their STEM program. So one of the things that LEAD will do, and we'll do on our Facebook page, is we're going to post the information as far as signing up for that program. The city schools right now are finalizing their process to enroll students in it. I don't have all the details, but I know that they're going to be doing an application process where young people can apply to be a part of that program. And they're going to go through an interview like you would a job.
That was my last update. I've been gone for about a week and a half out of town, but the last update I had, that was moving forward and going to be happening this month. So we are aware of that kind of stuff. On the statewide level, we have had some conversations about applying for some grants, focusing mostly on private money, some of the foundations. You know, one of the issues that we've encountered in those discussions is those statistics. You know, what are the accurate statistics regarding our community? We had a conversation with the judge, so I won't name my name here in town, and they said that they were interested in doing a grant specifically for Latinos in Saginaw County, you know, addressing issues with, you know, the contact that we have with law enforcement. And she couldn't write the grant, she couldn't submit the grant because she couldn't get good data to write the grant. So that was an opportunity missed right there. So as far as the issues that we're dealing with, priorities, that's probably the biggest one, is data and funding. But those are being addressed at the statewide level, so if you'd like to come to any of those, we welcome any input as far as that.
Just one question. Do I understand you saying that you're going to utilize both public and private money?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think also to respond to your question, when we talked about using the word Latino, we really have to look at who we are in terms of our racial makeup. We're biracial. How many kids here do we know of that have a black father or black mother, or a white father or white mother? It's in my family. I don't know about yours, but it's in my family. All right? And I don't have a problem with it. Not at all. I've learned to love them equally. I think the other thing that's important as well is that Centric has a program that's run by a program manager, Terry Pruitt, here in the city of Saginaw. And that program is geared towards minority males at the middle and high school level. That's to give them the kind of education, the math and the science education that is needed. They're in the process right now looking for mentors. Persons at least 18 or over, high school graduates, to help these young men along the way. So I thought to myself, one of the best things I can do is be a mentor. So I applied. I got hired. Wednesday we're going to be having a meeting, and we're going to have a training meeting in terms of what my responsibility is going to be. We still need mentors. They are looking for males. Okay? The individuals they're going to be working with are males. Minority males at the middle school and high school level. I was placed at Arthur Hill. So that's also a process, and that process, they have hired what they call coaches. And these are individuals specifically going to train in mathematics and also science. So I think that process is underway, and I think it's going to accomplish quite a bit, but at the same time, it's something that's not going to happen in one school year, though. There has to be some longevity involved here. Saginaw Board of Education received those dollars. I think it's important in terms of how they utilize those dollars, in terms of teaching and giving the training to these young men. So we're looking at those kinds of things, Ray. I think we're going to continue to, as LEAD, we're going to continue to look for funding so we can help ourselves to help our children.
Yeah, I have a little bit of an update on the Delta job and information about the STEM program. Thursday afternoon, I work at Delta, and Thursday afternoon, Dow was representing their program for the STEM program. They do have updates for Michigan Works where you can go there. They will allow you to take the test and allow you to do it at Delta as well. They waive the fees for those tests as long as you enter the fast track program. When you enter that fast track program, they will then put you in a registration base and make sure that they look at your application. Doesn't matter what your education is, as long as you're in there, step through the door, and they will help you out with the process. Now, as we said, we need to educate them, our Hispanic students as well. we have to get that information and communicate to them as well as give them that education. Because they need to know the information where to go, what to do, and how to do it, okay? They offer these programs, and we do one of these for fees. They have a scholarship program as well. While I was sitting in that meeting the whole time, out of 30 people, there was only one Hispanic that was there. So there's our statistics and lack of information that we need to get to these kids, to these people, and make sure that they know what they're doing and how to do it. We have the tools to do it, as he said, social media is one. There are different ways. We have to be open-minded in order to be able to get this going and make sure that they know what to do. I mean,
that's the great thing about the Facebook page, you know, we can have one place where every organization can post.
Right.
And have something like that going on.
Right. We have to use the tools that we have. Radio station. The internet radio station has changed everything. You know, there's radio stations here in Saginaw, such as the Midwest Tejano, the Advocacy show, which I'm the CEO and president of. So we ask that you guys use us. You use this for a community forum as well. Not only entertainment value, but we want to open that up to everyone. So we ask that, you know, you share with everyone that the local businesses, as you said, create links to different businesses as well. We not only reach Saginaw, but we reach the world. So in order to create opportunity, we need to express the feelings that we have through social media and use the media necessary. And I understand that by the year 2016, almost every brand new vehicle will have internet access radio. And if you don't use that media, then we're going to fall behind.
I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, but when it comes to the media, the only media that we have in Saginaw now today is these two radio stations that we talked about. Delta College, we got to go through so much red tape just in order for us to get a message across to the community. The idea of now we're dealing with Que Onda would be one of the, people say, oh my God, that's a magazine, but I tell you what, it does its job, and that's what we want it to do, okay, to make sure that they pick it up and read what's in it, okay. With Mi Gente should actually also be part of our lives in this community, sending a message across to anything that comes, the idea of what we need to do to prepare for our children. The Latino banner with Rosa Morales, not to call me up and say, I didn't know. Well, you know what? I didn't know either until right now, but you got to stay on top of things. You guys are the media. You're not coming in here and tell us how direction we should go. You should listen to our people. And then you write down how we feel about whatever. But we're engaging with the idea of working with these people much better than ever. Okay? And again, Mr. Larry Rodardo was just here a few minutes ago, and I invited him, and I'm glad that he was here. Rosa Morales is sick right now, but again, with the idea we are having great ties with these people that we have in media. Okay? And we will try to do our best to get out all the information that we need to know how to actually move it to this community. Okay? But again, that's what we're trying to do.
Questions? Right.
I know that you said that you started this within 14 or 13 with the LLEAD. How many other cities in Michigan have started chapters for Saginaw First?
Actually, we're the first focus group.
What do you want to know?
We're the first focus group in Michigan. We talked to these folks 2 weeks ago. When I say these folks, I'm talking about our board of directors. And we said, at least I said to them with support of Bobby and Dan, that we are going to move forward by having a session on LLEAD in our local community. And then from that, to create a chapter. But we have to let folks know that this is happening. And Rudy's here from Lansing. There's no one here from Holland, at least so they can pick up what we're doing today. We're videotaping this so we can pass this on, just to let folks know what we've done. We can either be a model, or they can create their own through any mistakes that we made today, okay? But other than that, that's the movement we have right now. I think what's really super important today is that we do a follow-up, okay? We can't just sit in this beautiful church and praise what we've done today, but we now have to go home in our communities and say now, Mr. Guevara said this is what we're going to do. Do I follow up? Do I get back with Dan, Bobby, Gil? Do I get back with them? Let me give you a little thought. We do plan to meet at least 10 months out of the year. We want to give you your summer months off. Okay? We want to start not in September, because we realize that many of you have families and you're off sending your kids to school and you're making that preparation. If not, you're off sending sons and daughters to colleges and universities and you're making that preparation. We'd like to start in October after you've settled that part of your family, and then go till June. That's what we want to do in Saginaw. Go till June, and then give you the summer off. There's always a possibility of always coming together in the summer, but we want to come together only if today we can get information from you saying, I'm interested. Hopefully, and I don't think this is going to be our last presentation, we want to do this elsewhere in our community. We want to make the same type of presentation. We want to let people aware of what we're attempting to do. We want people to be aware that we can come together and be a voice politically, in the churches, private companies, public agencies. We need to sit at the table where all the decisions are made. I just heard somebody say there was only one Hispanic out of 30. Well, we have to be at that table that makes decisions. We have to be the decision makers. Not me, but you. Okay, it's not about us. It's about all of us.
To be honest, we're looking at 28 cities right now that are looking at LEAD, all the way from Paw Paw, Michigan, all the way to Suttons Bay. Traverse City got McDonald's up there. You know what I'm saying? But they've taken an interest. The only thing that we got to do is got to put everything together. And then we follow through. We've been studying the idea of Michigan, the idea of the West and the East. So again, it's very important, again, that we do our homework. Diane?
Yes, I think we can involve the schools. You know, the schools allow the students to leave to go to a church. So why don't we invite ourselves into the schools, maybe during lunchtime, have a little area where we can meet with the students, you know? You don't have to preach or lecture. Just be there and listen for the students. I mean, we are welcome. We just need to open up the doors and let the military in. So why do they leave, Marines? Let them in.
I don't know if you had your... I just wanted to mention after Ray spoke that Matt Fellan is the CEO for the regional director for STEM in Bay City. And he's from Bay City, Mexicano.
We just made contact with our new superintendent here in Saginaw. She's been trying to get a hold of me. We gave her a wrong email address to me. And when we met her the other day, she was like, oh my God, you know, and the idea of we saw the doors opening of how to work together, okay? Not only with Saginaw Public Schools, probably with your schools, probably with charter schools, okay? So again, it's so much to look at. Yes, sir.
Mr. Oakley, I've been graduating from Morrow for about 14 years, and this is the first thing I ever heard, because, you know, back then when I was in school, we always had the Latino Action Club. That's no longer at our Hill. Carlton has probably 95% Hispanic kids that goes to Carlton. I think this organization should get along and come together and sit with both superintendents, Saginaw superintendent and Carlton's, and say, this is an idea we have for our children. How can we come along and get along and come in your school once a month to talk to the kids? Because nowadays, they don't let
anybody to come off the streets into the school district and talk to the children because, you know, you gotta have an ID badge or you gotta be a guest. I feel this organization should go to a school board meeting, make a presentation at the school board meeting, and go from there, and let the school board decide, are you in favor? I'm in favor for it. I like this idea. Because in 2016, I'm rerunning again for Saginaw Board of Education.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. You know, one of the things that I have in my notes that just says, LEAD must encourage our youth to partake, and we must invest in our youth. That's what we have to do, all of us. Sir.
Yes, my name is Herb Carey, and I'd like to say first, I want to use Mr. Guevara. I met you after you did a presentation at my brother's keeper, the first one. A couple of comments that I had and a question. I'm from San Francisco, and one of the things that happened there a couple of years ago was some of the citizens in the community went to look at the data at the police department to see what was the statistics on Latino and Hispanic men being falsely stopped, accused of driving while drunk, these kind of offenses. And when they went to the database, that showed nothing because everybody was being classified as Caucasian in San Francisco, if you were Latino Hispanic. So that drew up a lot of red flags of what do we do around data and data collection. I wanted to ask, one of the things that I have seen is one of the big steps and fastest steps to gaining political clout and power is having data. I think who has access to data and understands the data has the power to rule the world. Connecting, and I want to know if you have thought of doing your own repository and connecting with someone who is well knowledgeable in statistics, a biostatistician who has a PhD. They can set up a surveillance system where you can collect your own data, and the government, people, school boards, they will come to you. It could be at the state, go to the federal level, they will come to you for data on this community. And that is actually powerful. So I'm just wondering if you give thoughts to that, and if that's something that this organization body might do.
I think probably all three of us could answer that, but let me just start by saying that has been in our discussion constantly, is data to prove what we need to prove. May it be racial profiling, may it be stoppage, may it be the lack of the law enforcement agencies representing the community that they serve. I just recently served on an exterior panel for the city of Saginaw to interview the new chief of police. We had 7 candidates. From the 7 candidates, we had 3 African Americans. I thought, when I made my final selection for the top 3, that one of the PhD candidates, which was African American, had the kind of talent, experience, FBI Academy training in Quantico, Virginia, had everything that I thought we needed for Saginaw. But of course, I'm just one vote. But at least I had that opportunity as a Mexican American to sit on that panel and give my questions to those candidates. But when we talk about data, I'm going to let some other folks speak to that.
Hello. I'm someone that really likes to know what the data says. So, you know, what your comment is saying, I think is extremely important. You know, the work that, where I'm working in, Saginaw System of Care, we want to keep track of that data and use it in meaningful ways, like in our multicultural training. As you know, Herb is one of our trainers. And I have been in conversations with the leaders that are here, right up here, to talk about ways to address it in the Disproportionate Minority Contact Initiative and other initiatives that impact the lives of kids and youth in minority and marginalized communities. And moving forward, having a repository, collecting that data, you know, I think people are in agreement that that's super important, that in order to achieve what we're talking about here today, that that's essential to moving those issues forward.
Part of it too is there is a lot of discussions, workshops going on, specifically on what you were talking about. Nadia told me about an event a couple months back called Youth Behind Bars. Was that the name of it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they discussed exactly what you're talking about, and that's where I spoke to a judge about what I talked about earlier. But, you know, how often how well is that publicized in the community? Because there are programs out there to discuss exactly or address exactly what we're talking about.
I'll do one more and then we'll go from there. I'll get you, okay? Right now, with the idea of Ken Horn and a new rep, you know, I mean, that's a plus. But right now, we are talking to the senator of a new program that would lead to our young Hispanic men who are in prison. Right now, we're going to do a presentation to the governor that when our young Latino and Hispanic kids get out of prison, there will be a job waiting for them there, okay? We are going to fight the idea that when these kids get out of prison, that they only sit there. They're not doing that because of probation officers. I'm not supporting them. So we will fight strong to understand that these people who are supposed to be there giving hope to our young people who come out of prison understand that we're not playing around anymore. You're not going to send our kids back to prison only because they could not find a job, only because you did not let them go out there and use that freedom that they had just to actually get ready for the future. So we will present a new idea to the governor and hoping that's going to work. Again, these are things that we've been doing quietly on the side. But the idea that this is what we're going to be doing, we mentioned the idea of how important it is for our kids to prepare when they get out from prison. But the idea, go ahead.
I just want to say that one thing I would like to see out of this is not only a directory, but if, you know, like I know Ray's retired from Delta. Who do I go now to when my son, you know, has questions if he goes there? Who at SBSU? I know Ramsey and I can call my own group and say, hey, who's your contact here? I know now there's someone from mental health services. I'd love to see a point of contact. I mean, we need services for our something interested and going and finding that. It was hard. We had to work on digging. And to have that single person that, you know, like Monica at Saginaw Valley, Mom, how do I do this? Who do I go to? Point me in the right direction. I think that would be a valuable asset throughout the whole state. Because if my son wants to go to Western, someone in Grand Rapids, if they work there, if one of my sons wants to go to Central, we have a contact there. Here's who you talk to. Here's what you do. Here's what you need to do. That is invaluable.
For college settings, we're going to be sitting down with Alzheimer, and we're going to try to share some new ideas with Alzheimer, because they have great ties with all the colleges in the state of Michigan. And again, these are some of the things that we're going to be trying to do this year, okay, working with Alzheimer. And again, that's what we're going to be doing. But in the long run, we'll sit down with the media, and with Larry, and with Rosa, and radio stations, and get that going, okay?
At the meetings that we've had thus far, we've had representatives from ALSAME there, as well as the MSU Camp program, so other statewide organizations like Telamon, who are aware of what's going on and are involved in this process. But the big takeaway I want everybody to get from today is that we need more involvement. If the 3 of us can't, 4 of us can't attend all these meetings and things that are going on, and they are every single week. There's stuff that addresses all the issues we talked about today going on. We can't attend all the meetings. We need enough people that we can form committees for education, committees for juvenile justice, committees for mental health care. We need committees for all of these things. And that only happens if we get more people involved. So, you know, I heard some people say, what I'd like to see, we need you to make it happen. We can't make it happen without it. So, that's one thing you remember from today.
Last couple Saturdays ago, we had a snowstorm on Saturday, right? We took Dan's car, he said, let's go. So we were on I-75 and we go, woo! And I'm in the back seat and say, look, God, I know something's going to hit us, man. Would you please tell Dan we're turning back? And then probably when we got to Flint almost, Dan said, we're turning back.
We need new tires, too.
These are the risks that Gil myself and Dan, we take with the idea that we need to make changes. Okay? What is in it for me and Gil and Dan? Nothing. Nothing. We need the doers. Okay? We need the doers. And we need the people to take our place also. Because whenever time God said it's time to go, we're not coming back. But we're leaving a legacy. Okay? That the 2015 is going to be our year. So I'll leave you with this. Mr. Gilbert will say the last words. Thank you for even being here this long. The idea is this. We've got something to share with you at lunch.
Yeah, I want Rudy Reyes from Lansing. He's also part of LLEAD.
Come on, man, please.
We're inclusive. Matter of fact, to be inclusive, I'd like to introduce my wife, have her come up here, because half the people on this organization are women. We didn't need the women now. Because you can't make a pie, you can't make a pie, or leading. We have women leaders. But this is a social, what do you call it? I wrote it down. This is a social movement. And we're all part of it. Because this group can't do it all by themselves. This group can't do it all by itself. We all need to be together. No matter how you don't like that lady or that man, how he dresses, how he combs his hair, or how he wears his shoes, or that you used to be friends and now you can't. Listen, we're not going to give no place. La Raza Unida, the Mission Concerned Hispanics, all those groups have come. We need to get beyond that. This is historical. We're writing the Declaration of Independence, and you're you're John Hancock, and you're Thomas Jefferson. All those people, but they were all men. This time we're taking the women with us. The women are coming along. We're all going together. We're marching down that street. When we have somebody that somebody did something wrong to, we all need to be there. Whether you call somebody, your senator, your legislator, your city council, you write somebody, or you show up. We need to show them that we're coming to town, because we're a force. We're coming, whether they like it or not. We're like the big train coming. And somebody sticks their little Volkswagen and says, I'll stop that train. You're not stopping this train. Even the church, I'm not talking one religion against another religion. Even the Catholic Church knows you folks are coming. They made their Pope Latino. And that took how many years to do. They know we're coming. So, I'm saying this, we're all in this together. When they say Latino and you say your last name is Smith, and you're brown as heck, they know you're Latino. Okay? And America's too big to have 1, 2, or 3. Asian, black, white. America doesn't have that. When Obama was, I have some friends, and their kids are part African American, part Latino. So when Obama was president, they were African American. And then when merengue and salsa all came, all of a sudden they were Latinos. So they're interchangeable. So why should when we do the data for your 10-year census, they should be able to collect. Because we had a survey at LCC, Lansing Community College, and they said we only had 500 Latinos. So some of the people went out and said, okay, let's go count them. They found out they had 1,000 Latinos in the school. But the way they counted, black, white, I'm tired, like I said before, I'm tired of being on this. But when it comes to an issue coming up, we all need to be there. Because that's the only way. We need to start joining boards. There's a lot of people who make decisions of your school board, your United Way. All those, they all have boards. And those people, just like he said, Gil said, he was the only one that voted his way. So the only way we're going to get things done is we sit on those boards. Sure opinion. And the other part is, I did this one time and I got in trouble. They sent me to a big conference about United Way. And then afterwards they wanted my opinion. And I didn't give them an opinion for about 5 months. They finally called my president of my union and said, we paid for your guy to go to this conference and he gives opinion. So I wrote back my opinion. Everywhere I went to give my United Way money, I wasn't there. There was no Latinos, but you want their money. There's hardly any African Americans, but you want their money. I said, so this is my opinion. I'm not representative. I'm not giving you money. They wrote me back a letter saying, thank you very much. We will change that. And that's what we need to do, write those letters. Because if something goes wrong, we all need to be there. We all need to go. In Saginaw, if it's in Grand Rapids, if there's an injustice, we all need to go. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for coming. This has been a great turnout. What we need is for you to become members. We need you to go home and get your tia. We need you to get your huevita. We need you to get everybody that you know involved. Nothing is going to work. I'm a very grassroots person. I was past chair of the 19% Advocacy Committee, and that started very basic grassroots. And we actually got a street named after him, and we've done some other things in Madison. But I believe that nothing happens unless community moves. And Cesar Chavez was the same way. We're at very grassroots, and this is where I'm coming from. This will only work if we all participate. What happens in my backyard is happening in your backyard. This is a statewide group. So when you need Lansing, Lansing will be here. And we hope when Lansing needs Saginaw, Saginaw will be here, and Pawpaw, and Cass City, and every place else that where we are struggling. It's a struggle of the community, of the family, and we hope you'll all participate. Thank you.
I think we're going to close, but before we close, let me just make this last comment. LEAD, when you say the word, you got to mean it. LEAD, that means you, not me, you. Your active role in LEAD is exactly what the word says, lead. LEAD must encourage our youth. LEAD. LEAD shall overcome. LEAD shall overcome. Let's make this celebration today, this new year, 2015. Let's make it the year of LEAD. Each individual here and outside these doors must be a part of LEAD. I know, as I stand here, each and every one of you can lead. Think about that. You can lead. Together, we can. Together, we will. Together, we'll lead. Thank you. Oh, by the way, there's lunch. You're all welcome for lunch.